Hey y'all, recently I put out a birth vlog about baby number 2. So if you haven't seen that, go watch it. But this is just a sit down and chat where I want to talk about all the details of it. And what I hope is it, I don't know, encourages you, educates you, or just gives you peace of mind that if your birth story doesn't go exactly how you planned, there's still a lot of beauty in that. It really starts at the beginning of my 3rd trimester. Something about hitting that 3rd trimester, it clicked that I actually have to birth a child. And I may have freaked out a little bit. I made an appointment with my pelvic floor therapist to make sure like my body could birth the child. She was very encouraging and reminded me that I can and my body was strong enough to do that. About a month before my due date, I had a meltdown with Matt where I just told him like I was scared. Like I didn't think I could do it and I just had a lot of fear. And I think voicing that out loud, which I hadn't done, made me realize I had a lot of work to do in a short period of time. So I had been watching Bridget Teyler on YouTube, has a bunch of amazing videos about birth, and I just really like her personality. I connect with her. So I bought her Built to Birth course. And that was about 3 weeks before I was my due date. And I binged that because I realized like time was of the essence. And that put my mind where it needed to be. It gave me some tools to work through it. It helped my mindset. She had some meditations I worked through, and that was just a big shift for me. And so by the time Christmas got here, my due date was December 30th. So by the time Christmas got here, I was ready. And which was good because I thought there's a good chance he'll come before Christmas. Or at least like right after Christmas. That's what we'd been telling Wade. After Christmas, the baby's coming. So I was ready. Well, Christmas came and it went. And there's no baby. And at that point, I was seeing the midwife every week. So every week going in for a non-stress test. He's doing great. He's just chilling in there. I think every day after Christmas, I got a little more anxious to meet him because I really thought he was going to come early. The fact that second babies come early, that's not true. Those are lies. They're all lies. So I had unrealistic expectations on that. December 30th came. It went. Still no baby. At this point, I'm seeing the midwife 2 times a week to keep a check on him. And he's doing great every time, nailing the non-stress test. Growth is great. We're chilling. Amniotic fluid's great. In fact, I have plenty. Right before the Thursday before I hit 41 weeks, my midwife goes, who has not mentioned induction at all, said, "Are you interested? It's up to you. You get to make your own choices for your health." But this is when I start getting nervous. And I get that. Me too. Because at this point, my anxiety was just every day just getting a little higher. I was ready to meet him. I was ready to not worry about him. I just wanted him in my arms. And so the agreement was, or what I agreed to was like, let's just do an induction on Wednesday. This is Thursday. On next Wednesday, we'll do induction. On Friday, they didn't call to schedule my induction, so I didn't worry about it. I figured I'd talk to them on Monday. Well, Sunday morning, I get texts from family members. I'm like, everything is exactly the same. Everybody's checking on me every day to see if we have a baby. No. And then Sunday early evening, I started feeling those early contractions. And I thought, yes, like this is it. And it's funny. It's exactly the same schedule as Wade. Just 1 week later, at 40 weeks and 1 day, I had my first contractions with him, and it was on a Sunday. The same with Theo. At 41 weeks and 1 day, on a Sunday, I started having contractions. So I just thought that was like a fun little like synchronicity between the two. So that night, Matt and I decided since I was in early labor, we would have like fun food for dinner. So he went and got us Five Guys burgers and fries. And Theo had been active all day long. He's kicking. He's super active. Once the early contractions started, like his movements went down a little bit. And I'm like, it's fine. While Matt's gone to get food, I'm going through the mile circuit trying to like make sure, like get him in the right position so labor continues to move forward. And so I'm doing that. Matt gets back. We're eating. I haven't said anything to Matt about like he's not moving as much because I'm really not concerned at this point. Matt said as we're eating, he's like, I bet Theo really likes these burgers because normally when I ate, he would get super active. And I said, not really, because he's not moving. Like he hasn't moved. After we eat, I go through some more like mile circuit. I do some things that would normally get him moving. He's still just not really moving. Like maybe in 3 hours, 4 very small movements. So at this point, I'm getting a little concerned. I already told you my anxiety like was a little higher than it normally was anyway. So I called the midwife's office. They're like, we suggest you go ahead in, which is what we were leaning towards anyway. It's like I needed just to hear that confirmation. I don't know. I had already told my mom earlier in the evening, I'm like, hey, I may go into labor tonight, but I think there's nothing to do until the next day. Because here's my birth plan, y'all. I was going to labor at home. It was going to be super relaxing and chill, and I was going to labor in the tub some. I was going to get some sleep. You know, all these things you have in your head. Well, once like he wasn't moving, everything changed. So I call mom. I'm like, hey, you need to come over and stay with Wade. So she heads over and we immediately leave. We just, it's not what I pictured, which was going to be like a sweet goodbye with Wade, these last little moments. It was just like, we love you, buddy. We're going to go check on Theo and we're out the door. We don't talk all the way to the hospital. I think we're both just like praying and just praying, really. Matt was driving, just trying to get us there safely. As soon as we pull into the parking lot and Matt puts it in park, Theo gives like a huge, strong kick. And I was like, it was a mixture of feelings. It was like, thank you, Lord, was the first thing that came to mind. And I just thank you, Lord. And the second thing is like, buddy, come on. Like, you're stressing us out. You're already late. And now, like, you didn't move. But thank you for being okay. We head inside to go ahead and do the non-stress test and all that stuff, fully expecting, like, we're going to go home after this. We brought our half-packed bags because, again, plans, y'all. We were going to finish packing while I was in early labor. So neither of us knew exactly what was in our bags, but we brought them. We go in there, do non-stress test. He is great. Theo is chilling in there. He's super strong and healthy. Everything he's supposed to be. But my midwife is like, I think you should just go ahead and be admitted because we talked about inducing you anyway. So I was a little reluctant, but I came around because I'm like, I'll be less stressed probably if I'm at the hospital. We got admitted, and that's where we were with our half-packed bags. So I get into the room that night. Matt slept some. I slept a little bit. I was 3 centimeters when I got admitted, and I had just, some mild contractions throughout the night. I did at the hospital what I expected to do at home. The only difference is because I'd come in with decreased fetal movement, they had me on a fetal monitor the whole time, which I really didn't want to be. I wanted to move around a little bit more, and I could move around my bed. I just couldn't move away, like from my bed. I couldn't walk like up and down the halls or anything. So that was the only thing that was kind of at that point getting on my nerves a little bit. But he was good. I'm good. We're good. And so I got some sleep. It's the next morning. I'm still 3 centimeters, which is kind of what I expected. I expected like a longer early labor because labor wasn't fast with Wade. I did kind of expect it to be faster with Theo. Spoiler alert, it was not faster at all. So the midwife came in that morning, still at 3 centimeters, and she gave me a couple of choices. I could choose what I wanted to. She said we could start Pitocin or we could try some different, I said no, what are my other options? And she said, well, we can try some different positions and we can try the breast pump a couple of rounds to see if that gets you going. And so that's what we did. The positions helped okay. Now, the breast pump was the key because as soon as we started doing that, my contractions really like kicked in gear, and then I was like in labor the rest of the day. So once the contractions really kicked in, I just labored pain management. The goal, my goal was to go as long as I could without an epidural, because when I got the epidural with weight, it really stalled things for a lot longer than I wanted it to. So I just wanted to push myself and see how far I could go. And so I managed pain great that morning. I changed positions to help keep the contractions going. I had literally an angel of a nurse that day who had done some classes on spinning babies and just really liked natural childbirth. And so she really helped me throughout the day because they didn't have a lot of people giving birth that day. So I kind of had some one on one attention. And she really helped me with some positions to kind of get things going. And I beyond appreciated that. She was so encouraging and sweet, and I loved her so, so much. Matt helped me. He was he was amazing. Like I could not have done it without him, and I almost cried just like even thinking about it. He was my rock. He was so strong, and how far did I make it before I started crying, y'all? Um, he really helped me believe in myself and just helped give me strength through the contractions. And it was one thing that made it was one thing that made when I look back at laboring throughout the day, it's one thing that made it just beautiful to me, and I really enjoyed it, which just sounds really weird working through pain, but it was just like that bond of us together. I just really enjoyed it. Anyway, okay. So I labored throughout the day. Things were progressing, things were good. One thing I wanted to do a little bit more of was to get up and move around just to make sure I could get in like different positions and get the baby more in an optimal position because he wasn't exactly where he needed to be. So we kept trying to like get him in position. Some of that is I wanted to move around a little bit. I felt better when I was moving. So they did get me, and here's a tip: if you have to be hooked up, or you want to be, because it actually helped me know Theo was good, hooked up to a fetal monitor, is a lot of hospitals have where you can be on a battery pack. So they did that, and I was able to get up and move around a little bit more. So I was very grateful that they gave me that option. So I was moving around more, but I was also GBS positive, which meant every 2 or 4 hours, something like that, I had to get more penicillin. And once I was in like the middle of labor, I knew stopping to get the penicillin, because it burned so bad for me, that it would take me out of the mental headspace I was in. So when it was time, I declined it. And they actually had an alternative antibiotic that they gave me that went a lot quicker, and it also didn't burn. So I did that. And then I just kept laboring throughout the day. So around 3, I'm progressing really well. We think it won't be long. And then 4 o'clock hits, I'm laboring on a squat bar because it feels better when I'm in a contraction to actually like bear down and like push. Even though I know I'm not ready to push the baby out, like that movement actually made me feel a lot better. So at this point, we're like progressing along great. It shouldn't be too long. At 5:30, I get a cervical check. I'm 7 centimeters. I'm feeling a bigger urge to push, and I'm feeling a lot of pelvic like pressure against my pelvic bone. We're all thinking, again, it won't be long. 5:45, my water breaks. Really, at this point, y'all, it shouldn't be long, right? And my contractions are every like 2 to 4 minutes at this point. They're increasing in their intensity. They're increasing as often as they are. I'm still managing the pain, but it not as well. It hurts. It hurt. Like it hurt. It couldn't not hurt. And so mentally is when I began to get out of like the mental state I was in. So at 6:45, I mentioned my angel nurse. It was time to get off work. And I was in the middle of intense pain there. And she was telling me that she was about to leave. And I start crying because I do not want her to leave. And it was real close. I was about to beg her to stay. But I'm like, no, this is her job. She has been here for 12 hours. She needs to go home. Like, God knows who's supposed to be here with me. And so she left, and the nurse that had been there the night before was back. And she was great too. It's just like this one had been with me like through the most intense parts. And so at this point I start doubting myself a little bit. And that's probably not the mental state I need to be in. And I'm ready for an epidural. And I begin to feel this peace about it. I'm like, I am like mentally ready for an epidural. And so Matt, of course, the whole time is like, whatever you want, like, I support you. And my midwife knew what my goal was. And I had been working like all day managing the pain. And so she said, go labor on the toilet. I think that'll get you to almost 10 centimeters. And then let me know if you still want an epidural. I don't want you to be disappointed in yourself, which I appreciate her checking in with me and making sure before I got an epidural, because that means she was on my team. And it's really good. You want people on your team around you. You want people who support your goal and what you want no matter what. And I am so blessed to have had that with every single person who came in contact with me. So I did that. That got me to 9.5 centimeters. And I said, I do not care. I am ready for an epidural. And I just felt like it was just this, when I went into the bathroom by myself, I turned out the light and worked through some contractions. And God just gave me so much peace that it was time for an epidural. And so when I walked out, I was at complete peace with it. And so they came in to give me the epidural. That was a whole experience in itself, because at this point, I'm probably having contractions every 2 minutes. And the thing about an epidural is you have to lean over into a ball, which is not the most comfortable position when you're pregnant anyway. And you have to stay really still. And so I doubted that a little bit going into it, but I'm like, I can do this because I really want this epidural. So I bent over into my ball. I'm holding on to Matt like in front of me, and I feel a contraction coming. And so I tell the anesthesiologist, I'm like, I have a contraction coming. So he gets to a point where he can stop. But I can't move. So Matt, I'm holding on to Matt, and I am pulling him with everything I have, because I'm having to work through this contraction without movement in my body, which is how I'd been dealing with the pain. And Matt's like, man, you're strong. He's like, you were about to like pull me into the bed with you. So it took about 5 minutes to give me the epidural, and I had at least 2 contractions during that. So they were happening. But he was amazing. Every time I had a contraction, he would stop, let me finish, and then he would get back to doing the epidural. So once I got that, it worked pretty immediately. And at that point, the plan was that I would have some downtime, catch my breath, eat a little Jell-O, and then push a baby out. So we're ready. Well, that's when everything got a little crazy. I got the epidural, and I had an epidural with Wade handle it. Everything went great. I handled it well. Wade handled it well. Things were good. Not the case this time. As soon as I got it, my blood pressure tanked. Theo's heart rate tanked. He was at 80 beats per minute for 10 minutes, which is not ideal. So they're doing everything they can to stabilize him and stabilize me. It gets a little like sketchy because I did better when I was on my left side, and Theo did better when I was on my right side. And so obviously we're going to make sure he's taken care of. They finally get me stable, or so they thought they got me stable. And I told Matt, so right as they were getting me stable, we got a text from the moms and Matt's dad that them and Wade were there at the hospital, and they didn't need anything. They just wanted us to know they were there and they were praying for us, which was very sweet because we didn't know they were going to be at the hospital. Just knowing that they were there if we needed them and that they were praying for us really meant a lot. So we were all stable. I told Matt, I'm like, go. They had food for him. I'm like, go eat something and go give Wade a huge hug for me, because that's what I really wanted to do when I knew he was there. Is I wanted to hug him. Matt's like, are you sure? I'm like, I'm sure. We're great. They have us. We're good. Matt had just gone through this whole thing of watching my blood pressure drop, Theo's heart rate drop, and I could see it on his face like he was stressed. So I was like, I think it'll be good if he goes and gives Wade a hug. We all want to give Wade a hug. So he heads out of the room, and that's at like 8:20. As he walks out of the room, everything goes haywire again. And the midwife is like, you don't have time to rest. We need you to push. Like, you're at 10 centimeters. We need to go ahead and get baby out for both of your sakes. And so I text Matt. I'm like, you got to get back up here like ASAP. And that was at 8:24. I texted him. At 8:33, I was pushing. And the epidural worked because I couldn't feel anything, which is not ideal when you go to start pushing. But I'm pushing, and I'm doing the thing. I'm like praying through it. I'm praying about it. I'm just like, Lord, help me push this baby out. And things are going good, progressing, pushing him out. His head comes out, and they notice the cord is loosely around his neck, but it's nothing too concerning. They just like unloop it. But then they realize like he has a shoulder dystocia. And so what a shoulder dystocia is when his shoulder gets caught on my pelvic bone and his head's out, but the rest of him can't come out. And at that point, it is considered a medical emergency, and it means that time is of the essence at this point, because he can't breathe, and so he's got to come out. And so what they do is they did something called a McRoberts maneuver, which they laid me back flat because I was like up. They like laid me back flat. They pushed my knees up and thighs like up towards my head. The nurse kind of is on top of me. She pushes down right above my pelvic bone to push the shoulder out. And they did that within 30 seconds, which was amazing. And that just shows the skill level and the just knowledge of my medical team, which I will talk about them more in a second, because they are amazing. So poor Matt is watching all of this. I'm just like focused on like getting Theo out. He comes out. There's things that could have happened, like it could have like broken his shoulder, his collarbone, things like that as he's coming out. He came out perfect. There's things that could have happened to me. I was fine. So that all happened the best it could have happened. And at that point, I'm like, thank you, God, for telling me I needed an epidural, because had all of that happened and I didn't have an epidural and I could have felt all of that, I think it probably would have ended up in a C-section, because I would have fought what my body needed to naturally do to get him out. And so that wasn't my plan. Especially when I made it all the way to kind of the end where it was time to push, I would have thought that I would have not gotten an epidural and just finished it out. But there's something that told me, and it was God, let's go ahead and do it. And so having labored all day long, it was better for me and him to get to that point, but then it was time. And I am very grateful and thankful that I got an epidural, because I didn't really want a C-section. That's not the story I wanted. And if it was the story I had, then that's okay too. But anyway, beyond thankful for the epidural. So he came out. He's great. The NICU team was in the room to check on him because of everything that had happened up to that point. But Theo was great. They checked him out, and he had an APGAR score of 9, which is like how they evaluate a newborn. And he was placed on me for skin to skin, and then immediately we went into breastfeeding, and that went really well. And there's just, when he was born, so with Wade, when he was born, there was this just like height emotional state, just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's here. Like, just like a euphoric thing. With Theo, sweetest baby in the world, but it was a just flood of relief, like that he was out of me and he was here. Especially because the beginning of labor started being extremely stressed out and my mind going to some really dark places, and then ending in such a dramatic fashion. Just, it was like flood from head to toe of relief when they placed him on me and he started to cry. Of course, that moment between him being placed on me and hearing that cry seemed like, I don't know, 2 hours. Was not that long. But I was just like flooded with relief to have him in our arms and to just see his face. All of that happened, and then like things just calmed down. All those people who ran in the room suddenly were gone again, and it was just peace again, and he was with us. Everything just happened so fast from the time I started pushing to he was here, to within an hour, of less than an hour after he was born, Wade was in the room meeting him. So everything just happened fast. And then Matt and I were in our room, and it took us, I think, the next couple of days at the hospital of just decompressing from all of that, talking about it. We talked about it a ton once we got home, just to decompress from that story. It's not the story we expected. I expected this relaxing labor at home. I expected a very fast delivery because it's my second baby. I expected a lot of things that were not true. The things that were true was, when I was laboring most of the labor, it was a very peaceful and empowering time, even though it was working through the contractions. It was something, when I think about very fondly and very happy about. Some things were unexpected. Like I said, I wanted to labor at home because I wanted a peaceful time. Honestly, it was more peaceful in the hospital. And I realized that in early contractions is laboring at home with a 3-year-old is not super peaceful for me, especially somebody who is a mama's boy and was concerned that mama was acting weird. I realized as that was happening, like, the hospital was a better option for me to be, because I didn't have to be a mom to him during that time. He was safe with his grandparents, and I could just really focus on me and Theo. Having a team of people around you who support you and who are encouraging and who are peaceful is very important, and I had the most amazing team. I mentioned my husband. He was number one. Matt was the best partner and so supportive. He even did things like he put on some relaxing classical music in the background without me asking. I didn't know I wanted that. I wouldn't have thought about it. We kept the room dark, which is more peaceful for me. My staff was always very peaceful when they walked in the room. They walked in very quiet to kind of see where I was before they started talking to me. I would sense them kind of in the background every now and then, waiting for me to finish a contraction if they needed to approach me about something. And they were so knowledgeable. Like I said, the girl who was with me during the majority of the labor in the middle of the day, she knew a lot, and she would help me with like new positions if things had stalled a little bit. My midwife, who I had seen the entire time, she was on call Sunday night and she was off call Monday morning. So I had another midwife that was on the team come in, and honestly, she was exactly who needed to be there. I don't know, she was so confident in everything she did. She was very respectful of what I wanted. She gave me options, and during the actual pushing, when he got stuck, she was completely like peaceful the whole time. She was just so calm and confident in what she was doing. So I never freaked out because I'm like, these people around me know what they're doing and they're the right team for here. So God sent the people that I needed and that Theo needed to us when we needed them. So I said my angel nurse left right before I got the epidural and all that happened. Well, the nurse who came in, she had done since September, I think like 7 or 8, she'd had 7 or 8 patients with shoulder dystocias. So when it was time to act on that, she knew exactly what to do. And I'm just like, that's who God sent for us because that's who we needed. So it was just, I hope the encouragement to people is it may not be what you pictured, but it can be a very empowering and peaceful experience, even if it's not what you expected it to be. And God will send you the people you need around you during those times. And it's taken me a little bit to process his birth story, honestly, just because it had a dramatic start and finish. And but it's got us here. It was good. And he is healthy and perfect and waking up a little bit. So that's kind of our story. It was beautiful. The rest of the hospital stay was very non-eventful. They came in, checked me. I took there's things that I didn't expect, being the second delivery, like the contractions after birth contractions, I don't know what they're actually called, are a lot more, with that second kid. Things like that. But honestly, it was just like a peaceful experience in the hospital. We had really sweet bonding times. Some family came by, but we just enjoyed our time together, got a little bit of sleep, and then we headed home, which if you watched our birth vlog, you'll get to see all that sweet footage of Wade meeting his little brother. And it's honestly, oh my gosh, the sweetest, cutest thing in the entire world. So that's kind of the birth story. That's just me kind of laying out some of the details. If you have any questions about the birth story, or any questions if you're pregnant leading up to your birth or anything, feel free to ask them. I'll try to answer them if I can, or maybe someone else can answer them too if they have some insight I don't. Thank you so much for being part of this journey. Thank you for listening to me kind of decompress and ramble a little bit, but I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being part of our life. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.